The forest was quiet, yet it hummed with secrets. Mist curled like silver fingers around the trees, and the moon cast a pale light that danced on the leaves. Leora walked with careful steps, her heart heavy with fear and longing. Her own pack had given her away, not as punishment but as a gift to their enemy. She was meant to be a peace offering, yet her soul felt like a caged bird. Every shadow seemed alive. She could almost hear whispers in the wind, warnings she could not fully understand. Leora's gift, her rare ability to glimpse the future in fragments of visions, was both a blessing and a curse. She had seen the journey ahead, a road wrapped in fire and sorrow, yet she could not change the hand that had been dealt to her. At the border of the enemy pack, the air grew thick with tension. Trees towered like silent sentinels, and the ground beneath her feet was soft with moss and fallen leaves. There, waiting as if he had stepped from a dream, stood Kale. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and every inch of him radiated authority. His hair was dark as the midnight sky, and his eyes glimmered with the faintest traces of danger. Leora felt her pulse quicken, not just from fear, but from a strange pull she could not explain. "You are Leora," Kale said, his voice low, smooth, carrying both curiosity and command. "The one they claim to be their greatest treasure." Leora met his gaze steadily, though her hands trembled. "I am no one's treasure," she said softly. Her words carried defiance, a tiny flame against the shadows that clung to him. Kale studied her for a long moment. He could sense her gift, the flickers of foresight that danced behind her eyes. Few had such power, and even fewer wielded it with courage. She was dangerous. Yet in that danger there was beauty, and for the first time in years, Kale felt the stirrings of something he thought had been buried long ago: interest, curiosity, and something far deeper he did not name. The journey to Kale's fortress was slow and tense. Leora walked among the warriors of his pack, feeling their scrutiny and the weight of unspoken judgment. She had always been taught to be careful with strangers, yet these strangers were her new reality. The forest around them seemed alive with anticipation, as if it knew that fate itself was walking beside them. Kyle rode beside her, silent for much of the journey. When he spoke, it was rarely to her directly, but always in ways that made her feel his presence deeply. "Do not make mistakes," he said once, his tone clipped. "One wrong step and you will regret it." Leora held her head high, hiding the flutter of nerves inside. "I do not fear mistakes," she said, though her voice betrayed a tremor. Night fell as they neared the fortress. The moon shone over black stone towers that rose like jagged teeth against the sky. Kale dismounted and gestured for her to follow. Guards watched her with suspicion, whispers trailing behind her like shadows. Yet in Kale's presence she felt both exposed and protected, a confusing blend of fear and trust. Inside the fortress, the air smelled of smoke and old stone. Torches cast flickering shadows on the walls, and the hallways seemed to stretch endlessly. Leora could feel the weight of history in every corner, the victories and the failures, the curses whispered in hidden chambers, and the power that hummed beneath the stone. Kyle led her to a small chamber overlooking the forest. He did not touch her, but the space between them was charged with an invisible current. Leora looked out the window at the moonlit trees, feeling the forest's quiet pulse. She had expected fear, perhaps hatred, but instead she felt a strange hope. "You are far from home," Kale said quietly. "Do you understand what you have been given? Or taken?" "I understand that I am here," Leora replied, keeping her voice steady. "I will not be broken by fear, nor by those who claim ownership over me." Kale's lips curved slightly, almost a smile, though his eyes remained stormy. "Good," he said. "Perhaps that will serve you well." Days passed in a rhythm of tension and observation. Leora learned the rules of the pack, how they moved, how they spoke, and how power was measured in strength, cunning, and loyalty. Kale watched her constantly, noting every glance, every subtle movement. Their interactions were brief, often formal, yet filled with quiet electricity, an unspoken acknowledgement that their fates were intertwined. Leora's visions became more vivid. She began to glimpse shadows of the fortress in flames, the cries of warriors, and a darkness that threatened to consume everything. She did not know if these visions were warnings or mere possibilities, but she felt compelled to prepare, to watch, to survive. One evening, Kale found her in the courtyard, standing alone beneath the moonlight. He approached silently, and she did not startle. It was as if the forest itself had taught her patience, the art of standing still even when danger was near. "You see things," Kale said, almost a statement of fact. "I have felt the shadows in your mind. You are clever and reckless." "I see the truth whether I want to or not," Leora replied, "and I do not fear what I see." Kale's gaze softened, though only for a moment. Few can stand in the face of their own visions without faltering. He paused. "Perhaps you are stronger than you know." Their connection, fragile and unspoken, deepened. Small gestures, a shared glance, a word left hanging between them, a silence filled with understanding, spoke more than any declaration could. Both sensed that a dangerous bond was forming, one that neither of their worlds would accept. Then came the night that would change everything. A rival faction attacked the fortress, shadows slipping through the trees, eyes glinting with malice. Alarm bells rang, and the air was filled with the clash of steel and the roar of wolves. Leora's heart pounded, but so did a strange courage. She did not wait for Kale's command. Her visions guided her through the chaos. She saw the path of danger, the strikes that would hit first, the shadows that would fall where they were least expected. Using her gift, she helped the pack evade attacks and protect the weaker members. Kyle noticed her movements, the precision, the bravery. In the midst of the storm, he realized that she was no mere pawn. She was a force he could not control, yet one he could not resist. The battle ended with the attackers driven away, but the fortress had suffered. Smoke curled from the rooftops, and the cries of the wounded filled the air. Kale found Leora standing amidst the aftermath, her hair damp with sweat, her eyes bright with determination and fear. He lifted a hand, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You risked everything," he said, his voice low, almost reverent. "For me and for them. You are not like anyone I have ever known." Leora met his gaze, her chest heaving. "I do what I must," she said softly, "even if it frightens me." Kale's hand lingered near hers, the tension between them palpable. For a moment, the world seemed to pause, the smoke, the blood, the war, all forgotten in the quiet that had fallen between them. "If you survive me tonight," Kale said, his voice almost a whisper, "you will never leave my side, willingly or not." Leora's heart skipped a beat. She did not yet understand what he meant, but the weight of his words settled deep within her. The pull between them, forbidden and dangerous, was stronger than any fear she had known. The moon hung high, casting silver light over the ruined courtyard. Shadows clung to the walls, but in that silver glow, Leora and Kale stood together, two souls bound by destiny, desire and the fragile hope that love, even in darkness, could survive. And somewhere deep in the forest, the wind carried a whisper of things to come, a promise of challenges, of danger, and of a kingdom where love was forbidden, yet inevitable. The fortress lay quiet now, though the air still carried the scent of smoke and fear. The attack had ended, but the echoes of battle lingered in the corridors, in the shadows, and in the hearts of those who had fought. Leora walked carefully among the wounded and the weary, her hands trembling as she offered aid where she could. Every time her eyes met Kale's, she felt the pull between them, a dangerous, beautiful force that neither dared to name aloud. Kale stood atop the battlements, watching the forest beyond. The moonlight cast silver streaks across his sharp features, highlighting the quiet strength and the storm of emotions within him. He had fought beside her, protected her when the chaos of the night threatened to overwhelm them both. And now he could not deny the depth of feeling she stirred in him. Yet, the curse hung over them like a shadow, reminding him that their closeness was forbidden. Leora approached him quietly, her footsteps soundless on the cold stone. "You should not be alone," she said softly, her voice carrying both concern and quiet strength. "I have always been alone," Kale replied, though his eyes did not leave the forest. "Until now." The words hung between them, simple yet heavy with meaning. For the first time, Leora saw not just the alpha, not just the feared leader, but the man beneath, the man capable of care, of longing, of vulnerability. They spent the next days in careful balance. Leora learned the ways of the fortress, the rituals of the pack, and the duties that came with Kale's power. She moved among the members with grace, her gift of foresight guiding her in ways that gained their respect, though whispers of doubt and fear never fully vanished. Kale observed her constantly, noticing the small details, the way she paused before speaking, the subtle shifts in her expression when danger approached, the courage that never left her eyes. Night after night, they met in quiet moments beneath the silver glow of the moon. They walked through the enchanted forest surrounding the fortress, their steps slow and careful, each word measured yet meaningful. They spoke of the past, of visions, of dreams and fears. Every shared glance, every gentle gesture, carried the weight of forbidden longing. "You are bound to me now," Kale said one evening, as they stood on a cliff overlooking the moonlit trees. "By fate, by gift, by something I cannot name." Leora's hand brushed against his almost accidentally, but the contact sent a shiver through them both. "Then we must choose carefully," she said softly. "For every choice carries consequences." Kale's eyes darkened with thought. "I do not care for consequences," he said almost fiercely. "Only for you." Her breath caught, and for a moment, the world seemed to still. The wind in the trees, the distant cry of wolves, the silver light of the moon, all fading until only the bond between them remained. Yet the shadows were never far. A new threat soon emerged. Elders from distant packs whispered of the prophecy, a warning that any union between their bloodlines would awaken a curse, one that could destroy kingdoms and spill rivers of blood. Rival leaders plotted to keep them apart, using fear, manipulation, and old rivalries to weaken the fragile alliance between their packs. Leora's visions became more urgent, showing flashes of disaster, fire, betrayal, loss. She did not fully understand them, but she knew she must act. Kale noticed her growing unease and confronted her one night in the fortress's library, surrounded by ancient books and scrolls that smelled of dust and wisdom. "You see shadows," he said gently, "and yet you do not trust them to guide you." "They are warnings, not instructions," Leora replied. "I cannot always choose the path, but I can prepare for what comes." Kale reached out, taking her hand in his. "Then prepare with me," he said, his voice low and steady. "Do not face the darkness alone." That night, for the first time, Leora allowed herself to rest in the knowledge that she was not alone. She dreamed of Kale, of the fortress, of the forest alive with whispers and silver light. Their spirits intertwined in dreams, a dance of courage and longing, each night bringing them closer to the truth they both feared to admit. They were bound together, by destiny, by choice, and by a love that dared not speak its name. Weeks passed, and their bond deepened. Small moments, a shared cup of tea in the courtyard, a laugh in the quiet of the corridors, a look across the hall that lingered too long, built a connection neither could ignore. Yet fear remained. Every touch, every glance was weighed against the curse, against tradition, against the dangers that surrounded them. Then came the test that would define their path. A rival faction, fueled by old grudges and ambition, attempted to storm the fortress once more. Leora's visions flared, warning her of hidden dangers, traps, and betrayal. Kale moved swiftly, gathering his warriors, but it was clear that this attack was different, more cunning, more relentless. In the chaos, Leora and Kale fought side by side. The forest around them seemed to pulse with life, guiding their movements, shielding them from unseen threats. Shadows fell and twisted. Arrows struck the trees, and the enemy pushed closer with every passing moment. Yet through it all, their bond was a tether, keeping them steady, keeping them alive. At the height of the battle, a collapsing wall threatened to crush Leora. Kyle leapt forward, pushing her out of harm's way, taking the brunt of the debris himself. Dust and smoke filled the air as he lay on the cold stone, his body straining, yet his eyes found hers immediately. "You cannot be taken from me," he whispered, his voice raw with emotion. "Not by the curse, not by anyone." Leora knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she brushed dust from his face. "We are stronger together," she said softly. "If we fall together, but we will not be broken." In that moment, the fortress seemed to hold its breath. The moonlight shone brighter, the forest whispered secrets of courage and hope, and the shadows that had haunted them seemed to bow in acknowledgement of their bond. As the enemy retreated, defeated by Kale's leadership and Leora's foresight, the pack began to rebuild. The wounded were tended to, the fortress repaired, and the air slowly cleared of smoke and fear. Yet the curse remained, a silent reminder that their love was forbidden, their bond dangerous, and their future uncertain. Kyle, though wounded, rose to his full height. He looked at Leora, the determination in his eyes unwavering. "Then we will make our own path," he said. A kingdom of our own, even if the world refuses to allow it. Leora's heart swelled with a mixture of hope and fear. She knew the journey ahead would be perilous, filled with tests of courage, loyalty, and love. Yet for the first time she felt the strength to face it, not alone but with Kale by her side. The night stretched on, silver and quiet, as they stood together atop the fortress. The forest below was alive with whispers and shadows, yet for the first time, those whispers seemed to speak of possibility rather than doom. Kale's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining in a gentle, unspoken promise. "This kingdom of forbidden love," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "We will carry it together." Leora looked into his eyes, seeing the storm of power, pride, and vulnerability that lay beneath the Alpha's exterior. She felt the bond between them, fragile yet unbreakable, a thread woven by fate, courage, and love. "We will," she said softly, her voice carrying strength and hope. "Together, always." And somewhere in the depths of the forest the wind carried their promise, a vow that love, even forbidden and dangerous, could endure. That night, under the watchful eyes of the moon and the silent whispers of ancient trees, two souls found a bond that could not be broken. A kingdom of forbidden love had begun, not with crowns or thrones, but with courage, trust, and a connection that would defy curses, rivals, and fate itself. The night was quiet, but the story was far from over. Shadows still lurked, threats still waited, and the curse lingered like a silent storm. Yet Leora and Kale faced the future together, their hearts entwined, ready to carve their own destiny amidst the darkness, danger, and the promise of love that refused to be denied.